Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous with Down to Earth Astronomy. Frontier has just held their third of the four Q4 Chapter 4 live stream updates, whatever. And the topic of this week is the new Squadrons and the changes coming to mining. And as always, as the two previous weeks, I'm going to go through the content that they showed in the live stream. And I'm going to do it in approximately the same order as I did in the live stream, so you have a chance to get a quick overview of what happened, and if you want to know more, you can go and you can watch the full live stream, of course. And of course, what they showed this week is also what we're going to be able to test on Tuesday in the next week of the beta period, when this new content is released onto the beta servers. So first, let's have a look at what's been changed with the Squadrons. Now, Squadrons are, of course, a in-game way to group people together in Squadrons. And there's a few interesting things here. A lot of the stuff we pretty much already knew. There's going to be various in-game text chats. But you'll also be able to announce, like, put tags on your squadron to say what kind of focus areas you have. Like, are you doing PvE? Are you a mining, exploration, trade, various other things? Seems like main language is also an option. Time zones might be an option. Stuff like that. Stuff that helps you find a group of like-minded players. So again, and you can have, I don't know how long the list is, but it's I guess it's pretty long. The list of tags you can put on your squadron. Now you're also going to be able to have a public statement that's basically a description that tells new players or players considering joining your squadron a little bit about it. So this could be some kind of either a recruitment message or something similar to that. You can also have an internal message that's going to be more like a motto, message of the day kind of thing. So I could see this being very useful in terms of BGS, where you would often change your daily orders every day, of course. So there is some useful stuff. There's also some stuff in there that I think very few people will use. For instance, you're going to have like a ranking system that might be used, but the leaders of a squadron will have an in-game text chat. I think it's unlikely that's going to be used by a lot of people. Most people will probably offload that to somewhere else like Discord or something like that. But it is there, and of course it should be there, but it's probably not one of the most used features. An interesting thing they showed though was this leaderboard that's going to be. There's going to be a season going on. For how long these leaderboard seasons are, we don't know yet. But basically there are leaderboards with various categories like anti-xeno defense, trade, combat, exploration, power, which I assume is power play, and then also show political. I don't know how you accumulate points toward a political leaderboard in the current with the current content in the game. So we'll see about that. If you have any ideas, just post them in the comment. And at the end of each season, the winning or the top 3 squadrons of each category will get a small like custom bobblehead, or not custom, but they'll get a small bobblehead they can put in their ship to proudly show off, saying, "Look, I was part of a squadron that won the, let's say that was the trade leaderboard for a specific season," something like that. You can also align your squadrons with player factions, or not necessarily player factions, but any faction in the game. An interesting thing was they showed the Create Squadron UI, and you could actually, it says you could align you up to 5 factions, so you're not forced to only align you with one faction. This would be minor factions, not like the superpowers. It's a minor factions like in a single system. And it seems like you can align you up to 5 factions, which is pretty interesting. There's going to be a fee to create a squadron, and what they showed, it was 1 million, but they did say that was hot numbers, so because it's a beta, that's not the correct numbers that's going to be when it goes live. They did talk about it's going to be around 10 million, but again, they have not set that in stone yet, so we don't really know where that's going to be just yet. But that was pretty much the quick overview of Squadrons. So it's a nice addition to the game, but I really hope that when the fleet carriers come out, hopefully next year, that it's going to add a lot more dynamic and a lot more gameplay around the squadrons, rather than just right now be a way to group people together and to get a tag on your ship. And of course, I'm actually considering creating 2 squadrons by 2 characters. One for Terra X, so for the people who want to join in and do BGS stuff. And for the people who just wanna join in and maybe join events or other stuff like that, there is gonna be probably a separate squadron for that. But I'll figure all that out later on. But the reason why I'm doing that is to try and make sure that then the BGS people, of course, BGS people will also be invited to the events, but if you want to have some extra and do BGS, you can join the second squadron. That's my plan right now. I'll have to run this by both the BGS planning team and stuff like that. But all that will be announced later on. So stay tuned for that information. And let's move on to mining. Mining is something that in the game has been very overlooked in the last 2-3 years. Pretty much since launch. The only thing that's been changed is the introduction of collectors like limpets. So that's nice to see that. What you will need when you're mining now is you can go to a ring and you can fire with your detailed surface scanners we talked about last week. You can fire these probes, you can fire it at a ring and it will locate hotspots that will then show up in your navigation panel. And these hotspots will then have various materials. It's not just like a low, medium, high thing. It could be let's say a gold hotspot or hopefully a painite hotspot if you're very lucky. How common these rare materials are going to be, we don't know. But it seems like these hotspots are pseudo-persistent. So they're not like permanent, but they are persistent over, which at least I tried it out doing. I found some of them doing my own live stream last week, and they were at least persistent over a relog from, that was from solo to open. So at least they are somewhat persistent, but they are going to change over time, which is going to force miners to move around a lot more than they do today, unless they're just going to hope that they have a ring, a lot of rings in the same area that's going to be good for mining. So a good mining system not only needs to have just one ring, you'll now have to have multiple rings in the area, so you hopefully can find a good hotspot so you can move around those systems. But that's going to be a lot more changes to mining ships, and the meta for mining ships. We're going to come back to that a little bit later. But you're going to have these hotspots you can drop in, you'll then find more of the material, I guess, for that specific hotspot. Once you're in the rings, you will need a new pulse wave scanner. This is either going to be an internal or a utility. They weren't, Adam Woods, who showcased it, wasn't actually exactly sure if it was an internal or a utility. I hope it's going to be a utility. It would make the most sense to me that it's a utility, but again, we have other scanners that goes into core internal, not core internal, but optional internal, so it could go there either or as well. But you need the pulse wave. That's gonna send out a wave and scan the asteroid. They're then gonna show up with various degrees of color, and the warmer the color is, the higher the density of the material is in that rock. So once you found a rock with a ton of material in, you're then going to be able to fire off a prospector. And the prospector is going to show 3 types of targetable objects, not really objects, but locations on the surface of the asteroid. Or, well, not always the surface, but on the asteroid. And these are, of course, the surface, the subsurface, and the core. And for these 3 types, you're going to need 3 different types of weapons. First, we're going to have an abrasion blaster. This seems like to be an energy weapon. At least it didn't have an ammo count when they showed it in the live stream, which is really, really nice. So it seems like that at least the abrasion blaster is a energy weapon that just uses power. And this is used to blast off surface material. And this seems to be one of the... this is the weapon you need. Pretty much the most important. You will need the others as well, but this is definitely, you can cheap out on some of the other ones, I guess, but abrasion blaster, you definitely need that. Then they have the dispersal missiles, and this is a missile rack. The one he showed had 48 units of ammo. We didn't see anything regarding synthesis. I do assume we're going to be able to synthesize ammo for them, because otherwise 48 in a single launch is going to mean we're going to have some pretty short mining trips. We've got to do a lot of time going back and forth between the stations. So, yeah, I don't know, 48 ammo count. And the abrasion missile launcher is used for subsurface. And the way these are used is you fire them at what you want to, what it is you want to extract. It fires the missile down. It begins to drill into the surface. You get this basically a small like a mini game where you have some first an intensity bar that shows how much materials are available, and then a sliding bar at the bottom with some some colors, and you need to release right when you're when like a cursor aligns up with that area with a lot of material, and also aligns up with one of the blue markers on the sliding bar. So there's a little mini game around that, and there's a little bit player skill involved in that to try and get the most yield out of it. But again, you can always just fire another missile at it. It's not like you're gonna miss out on material if you don't do it well. You just have to fire more missiles. So an efficient miner will be able to get the materials out quicker. And then the final one is the seismic charge warhead. Same deal here. It's also missiles. It also has 48 ammo count, and these are used for the cores. So the rocks will have like features on the surface that comes in 3 variants: low, medium, and high strength. And you will then be able to charge up your warhead and then release it once it has the proper charge, and will then go into the feature. You will then be able to have like an area, like a new mini game that shows you how much quote-unquote power you have ready on the asteroid. If you have too little, you're not going to be able to crack it open and get access to the stuff in the middle. If you get too much, you're going to destroy some of the materials in the middle. And it was basically it divided into a grid, and he started up by firing a high strength warhead at it, and he got 3 bars. So I assume what you're going to get is going to get 1 bar for low, 2 bars for medium, and 3 bars for large. So it's pretty much just if you can count to 5, which seems to be how much you would need. I don't know if that varies from rock to rock. It might. But if you can count to 5, then you should be good. And then they have a timer, and you can then either detonate, or I guess they will detonate when the timer runs out. And if you have the correct amount of force, it will then break the asteroid open. And as the asteroid breaks into smaller pieces on what was previously inside, you will now have surface deposits, which you can then shoot off with your abrasion blaster, as we saw before, which is why I think that's going to be the core module. I could actually see that you could skip the dispersal missiles and not go for the subsurface stuff and say, I'm just going to go for the surface stuff. So you find a rock, you're going to shoot off all the surface that you already have on it, then you're going to crack it open and shoot all the surface in the middle. That could be a way. I'm definitely going to experiment with this, and I'm going to do, once this go live, a very detailed guide on this, because this is going to be something that we're going to find very interesting. But a thing that I noticed is, of course, these asteroids will move around. We have these targetable objects on the surface, so we will need to be moving around a lot more than we're used to when we're mining. And that means I think we're going to see a shift, and this fits well with what I've seen Frontier doing if you look at the ships they're launched, it's all medium ships, right? So I think we're going to see a shift from these, like the cutter being the king of the miners, where you just have a huge ship with a ton of cargo, you go up to a rock, you point a laser at it and shoot and collect it. We're going to have ships like a Python that have still a decent amount of optional internals, but it's a lot more mobile, so you can move around the asteroid and get onto those because a lot quicker. Because if you spend a lot of time moving around the asteroid without being able to get to the location where you need to shoot your new weapons, you're going to waste a lot of time, and you're not going to be able to be as efficient as you would maybe in a smaller ship, even though you can hold less cargo. So definitely see we're going to need there's going to be a change there. Shields probably also going to be a mandatory thing here, because you can take damage. It is a little bit more hazardous mining now. And of course, we will also need a detailed surface scanner in order to scan the rocks. So that at least is optional. I keep killing core. Is an optional internal. But a very, very important change is that there's a lot fewer fragments now. A fragment will now have a lot more materials per fragment than we previously did. So a single rock, even if you kill all the surface ones and all the core ones, it will take a lot longer to get access to them, but you will maybe get the same number of fragments as you would before, but they would contain a lot more material. So it seems to me, if I'm not mistaken, you will get a lot more material per rock, but it's going to take longer to get it out of the rock. That means you're going to get the fragments slower, so that means we can get rid of some of our collector limpet controllers. Because right now, for instance, on my cutter, I'm running 3 collector limpet controllers for a total of 9 collectors. And I think my Python is running 2 controllers for a total of 5 or 6, I can't remember. But I think after this update, a single collector with 3 collectors is going to be more than enough. 2 might even be plenty. Because there's going to be so fewer fragments to pick up. I mean, maybe the same number of fragments, but it's going to take longer to get them, so you don't have to have all those collectors in order to keep up with your lasers. And that, of course, gives us more optional internals, which we can either use for, if that pulse wake scanner is a optional internals, we can use it for that. We can also use it for more cargo, which is also going to be nice to have. But yeah, that is my quick overview of the latest live stream. I hope you will join me on Tuesday when this goes live on the beta server. I will of course be live streaming this, and I'll show you we're going to take out the Python and we're going to crack open some asteroids, and we're going to test this out. I'm going to test various builds, going to prepare to make the detailed mining guide that we're going to do once this goes live. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, I will see you guys in space.